In 2011, Groupon turned down a $6 billion check from Google, not because they were arrogant, but because they genuinely believed they'd be worth more, a lot more. By November of that year, Groupon went public at a $12.7 billion valuation, making it one of the biggest IPOs since Google itself. The stock soared. Investors were convinced they'd just witnessed the birth of the next tech giant. But here's where it gets interesting. By 2012, the cracks started showing. The customers buying these deals never came back. The restaurants offering them were losing money. The unit economics were broken. And by 2024, 13 years later, Groupon stock is trading at $1 or $2 per share. The company that rejected $6 billion is now worth barely $300 million. This is the story of how explosive growth with a broken business model doesn't just slow down, it collapses. And why Andrew Mason's biggest mistake wasn't saying no to Google. It was not understanding what he'd actually built. Act 1. The Eureka Moment, 110 to 330. Let's go back to 2008. Andrew Mason was a failed founder. His first company, The Point, was a social fundraising platform. You could crowdfund causes online. It sounded good. It didn't work. The platform shut down. But instead of giving up, Mason started thinking, why did The Point fail? Because people wanted something more tangible, more immediate, a deal that actually saved them money. That's when the idea hit him. What if you could match supply with demand in real time? Small businesses want customers. Customers want discounts. What if you could connect them and take a cut? So in 2008, he launched what he called the Point 2.0. But it wasn't really the Point anymore. He renamed it Groupon, Group plus Coupon. And here's the beautiful simplicity of it. A local restaurant offers 50% off dinner. But there's a catch. The deal only tips and launches if a minimum number of people, say 100, agree to buy it. Once they do, everyone gets the discount. Groupon takes 50% of the revenue. The restaurant gets 50%. Customers save money. Restaurants get packed on slow nights. Groupon makes money. It sounded like a genuine win-win-win. The first deal was iconic. 500 pizzas from an Italian restaurant in Chicago. They sold out in hours. The restaurant was packed. Customers were happy. Groupon had proven the model worked. So they did what any startup would do. They scaled. One deal per day per city became their motto. Chicago, New York, San Francisco. They were expanding across the entire country. The growth wasn't incremental. It was explosive. By 2009, they were doing $150,000 in annual revenue. In 2010, that jumped to $8.3 million. By 2011, it was $312 million. In a single year, Groupon had grown 1,500%, 1,500%. There was literally no company growing this fast. Not Amazon in the early days, not Google, not even Facebook. Groupon had cracked the code on hypergrowth. And that's when the money started flooding in. Act 2. Hypergrowth, 330 to 7. Venture capital firms were throwing billions at this company. Sequoia Capital, one of the most legendary VC firms in history, said this was the biggest opportunity they'd ever seen. Andrew Mason became an internet celebrity. By 2011, Groupon was operating in 500 cities across 45 countries. They'd raised $1.3 billion in funding before even going public. Every startup wanted to be Groupon. They had Living Social trying to copy their model. Amazon was watching. Google was definitely watching. In fact, Google wasn't just watching. In December 2010, Google made Groupon an offer, $6 billion. Just buy the company outright. For a 2-year-old startup that didn't exist 3 years prior, $6 billion would have made everyone rich. Mason's investors would have made fortunes. The employees would have had life-changing money. It was an unbelievable offer. But Mason said no. We'll be worth more, he told his board. We're going to do an IPO, and we'll be worth $10 billion. His investors agreed. And honestly, at the time, it wasn't crazy. Groupon's growth was insane. The market was obsessed with them. Turning down $6 billion to bet on $10 billion seemed like the right call. The board voted to reject Google. It was a pivotal moment, and it would turn out to be the biggest strategic mistake in the company's history. November 2011, Groupon's IPO day. The stock was priced at $20 per share, but the market couldn't wait. It opened at 26. Andrew Mason was on top of the world. Act 3, the cracks, 7 to 10:30. Let's talk about what actually happens when you buy a Groupon deal. You find a restaurant you've never been to. 50% off sounds amazing. You buy the coupon. You go to the restaurant. You spend exactly the amount of the coupon. You eat. You leave. You never go back. Why would you? You got the deal. The next time you want a discount, you'll use another Groupon from another restaurant. Groupon customers weren't loyal. They were deal hunters. They were bargain chasers. They had no intention of becoming repeat customers. But the restaurants thought they would. So let's break down the actual economics. A restaurant offers a $100 lunch at 50% off, $50. Groupon takes 50% of that $50. The restaurant gets $25. But the food and labor costs $35. So the restaurant just lost $10 on that transaction. And the customer will never come back. Ever. That's not a way to get new customers. That's a way to lose money. By Q1 2012, just 3 months after Groupon's IPO, merchants were reporting significant losses. They were complaining publicly. Customers came for the deal, spent exactly the deal amount, didn't order drinks, didn't buy anything extra. We're losing money on every single Groupon customer. Some restaurants were demanding that Groupon run new deals just to maintain traffic. It became a subscription to Groupon rather than a one-time marketing channel. The merchants started leaving. They stopped participating in deals, canceled future promotions, pulled back. And when merchants left, what did Groupon have? Nothing. A platform full of old deals, declining inventory, declining appeal to customers. So Groupon had to acquire new merchants to keep fresh deals on the platform, but the customers they were acquiring were worthless. Deal hunters with zero lifetime value. The math was breaking down in real time. And then, in the middle of all this, the SEC showed up. In Q2 2012, investigators began looking into Groupon's accounting practices. What they found was damning. Groupon had been excluding refunded deals from their revenue calculations. It made their growth look better than it actually was. They'd also been misrepresenting metrics like daily active users. When Groupon restated their financials, the numbers looked worse. Revenue was lower, growth was slower. The narrative cracked. The stock price, which had been over $30 at its peak, crashed down to $6, then lower. The company that was worth $12.7 billion on IPO day had lost 80% of its value in months, and it kept getting worse. Act 4. The Decline, 1030 to 1400. In March 2012, less than 4 months after the IPO, Andrew Mason was fired from his own company, replaced by Eric Lefkofsky. The founder who'd turned down $6 billion from Google was now out. He'd be gone from the company by 2013. The CEO changes didn't stop there. Between 2012 and 2018, Groupon cycled through multiple CEOs. Eric Lefkofsky, Rich Williams, Cal Bhatia. It was a revolving door of executives brought in to fix what was fundamentally unfixable. Because the problem wasn't execution. The problem was the business model itself. Groupon tried pivoting. In 2013, they launched Goods, a marketplace for selling physical products directly. Amazon's space. They got demolished. They couldn't compete. In 2014, they tried returning to local deals but expanding into services. But the daily deal market was now completely saturated. Living Social was copying them. Amazon had Amazon Local, WeChat in China, Alibaba internationally. Groupon had no competitive moat. Anyone could copy the model. The decline was slow but relentless. In 2013, the stock was trading at 2.50, down 90% from the IPO price. By 2015, revenue was actually declining for the first time, down 15% year over year. The growth narrative was completely dead. By 2020, COVID hit. And ironically, local deals should have thrived during a pandemic. Restaurants needed customers. But Groupon's reputation was so damaged, and their pool of merchants was so depleted, they couldn't capitalize on it. Let's look at the numbers. Peak revenue for Groupon was 2014, $2.4 billion. By 2020, that had declined to $950 million. By 2024, it was around $700 million. They'd burned through billions in funding and had to keep raising money just to survive. The market cap? Down from $12.7 billion to about $300 million, a decline of 97%. And here's the darkest part. They're still losing money, in many quarters, 13 years after the IPO, still not profitable, still struggling. Act 5. The lessons, 1400 to 1630. Why did Groupon fail? Let's be surgical about this. Unit economics. Every single deal that Groupon brokered lost money for the restaurant and created a customer with zero lifetime value for Groupon. This is a business killer. You cannot build a sustainable company on transactions that lose money. Customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value. Groupon kept spending more money to acquire customers who were worth nothing. The cost to acquire exceeded the value they generate. That's a death sentence for any business. No competitive moat. Anyone could copy the daily deals model. And they did. The barriers to entry were so low that competition arrived almost immediately. Market saturation. Once daily deals became popular, the space got crowded. Living Social, Amazon Local, Woot, hundreds of smaller competitors. Groupon couldn't differentiate. They were just another deal site. Merchant resentment. The restaurants and businesses offering deals weren't happy. They'd lost money on them. Why would they keep participating? They left. And without merchants, the platform had nothing. And then there's the decision to go public. Groupon went public too early. They had a broken business model. They knew it was broken. You could see from the merchant complaints that it was broken. But they went public anyway. And once they were public, the company was under pressure to grow, to hit quarterly numbers. So they kept spending, kept losing money, kept burning cash. The IPO was supposed to solve their problems. Instead, it locked them into a death spiral. Aced 6. Today's Groupon, 1630 to 1745. Groupon still exists. It's still operating. In 2024, they're pivoting again, trying to move into experiences, travel deals, local activities, competing with Airbnb experiences and Ticketmaster. They're a tiny player in a massive market. They have brand recognition, some loyal niche users. But growth? It's dead. Profitability? Inconsistent at best. The company has less than a year of cash runway. They're on life support. Andrew Mason, the founder who turned down $6 billion, he left tech, became a musician, founded Detour, which was an audio walking tour app. That failed too. He's now running Band Together, a community platform. But he never replicated Groupon's success. Even though Groupon itself was ultimately a failure, Mason couldn't build anything bigger. There's a certain poetic justice in that. Closing, 1745 to 1900. Here's the fundamental truth that Groupon's story teaches us. Speed and scale are not the same as business quality. In 2011, Groupon rejected a $6 billion offer from Google. The company was worth $12.7 billion on IPO day. The narrative was locked in. This was going to be one of the most valuable companies in the world. But by 2024, the stock was trading at $1 or $2. The company that turned down $6 billion is now worth less than $300 million. 13 years. And they still can't turn a profit. Because the fundamental problem never went away. The unit economics were broken from day one. Every deal that Groupon brokered was a loss. Every customer they acquired had zero lifetime value. The merchants resented them. The customers were just deal hunters. The business model was unsustainable, and no amount of growth could fix that. You cannot build a sustainable company on broken unit economics. You cannot. Growth hides a lot of problems, but eventually, the math catches up. Eventually, the money runs out. Eventually, reality hits. Groupon proved that explosive growth means nothing if your business model is broken. They proved that growth without profitability is just burning money faster. They proved that if every customer who buys is a loss, you don't have a business. You have a charitable organization. And eventually, even charitable organizations run out of money. the fastest growing company ever became worthless. Not because they executed poorly, not because they had bad luck, but because they were selling a product that destroyed value for everyone involved. And you can't scale destruction. You can only scale it until the money runs out. And that's exactly what happened.